Hey everyone, hope you are having a fantastic day. Great to see all the familiar faces coming in here today. We're going to be kicking off coming into today. We're going to be looking at some really critical pieces following up on what we did last week. So if you guys remember from last week, what we ended up covering off on was going to be about looking into how were we able to see like what were the pieces of like core value that we were looking for in the major areas of our lives, whether that was going to be your financial, your intellectual, your social, your just overall your health, your emotional well-being, your spiritual, which is just essentially your self-awareness of self, and looking at that concept more deeply, and looking into how do we actually define like what are the areas of our life and how do we quantify what the necessity that we would have for being able to improve that area of our life. That piece that we talked about last week, if you look into your emails, I sent out a piece of here too. This was like the part of like the fishes exercise that we did. You'd find that on your journal on page planner here on page 37. If you don't have a planner, feel free to go ahead and email in, or just go ahead and put it into the chat that you're looking to get one, because we are giving away free planners for all month. This month we'll be giving away the free planners. Otherwise, they're going to be selling for around $60 a piece. And I think Liz also has some links that she dropped in last week for digital copies. For anybody that hasn't received a physical copy yet, there is a digital copy that we are able to provide you there to start your process of looking at it while you're waiting for your physical copy to come in the mail for you. Also want to just direct your attention, guys, really quick to the Google Drive folder. And if you guys don't mind, as you're coming in here, if you're able to just turn on your cameras, so that way for anybody that feels comfortable being on camera, it just kind of like helps me see if whatever I'm talking about is resonating with everybody, or if I'm losing you. That's helpful for me. So one of the pieces in here, you'll just see it's dropped here in to the chat. And inside of the chat, that's actually a guide that we have for how do we expect these calls to go. This is basically our process that we come through. So we're going to start here as part of our process where we're all joining in on the Zoom call. Then what we're going to do is go into breakout sessions to be able to have the opportunity for intentional connection with each other. We're going to have a presentation of some information for you that's going to be about a new piece of learning. And then we're going to have some question and answer and discussion. And you can see here, there's also some tech tips that we have here about making sure your technology is set up right. If you want to change your display name for any reason, as well as being able to how to get called on, which is going to be raising your hand. And then once you're called on, to please just unmute yourself. And so that way you'll be able to participate in some of that conversation. So guys, so we'll go ahead and kick off here. We're going to go ahead and kick off here to our first breakout session. And then we'll be able to go ahead and come back into the room with that. So if you guys remember our breakout sessions, we're going to cover, there's 7 points to discuss in your breakout sessions here together. We're going to take about 10 minutes to do this. And then what we'll be doing with the breakout sessions is discussing and focusing on listening to what are the critical pieces that we can report back to the group. So the goal of the breakout session is to be able to have a conversation where we're able to extract either what are people's things that they can offer to the group, or and maybe where would people be needing help or assistance. So we think we're going to do that by having conversations around these 7 topics. So of course, we always like to talk about the top 3, right? Which is like your name, where you at, what are you investing in? And then the other pieces to cover off on are going to be, what's your superpower? What's that thing for you that's easy for you and seems to be difficult for other people? What's one thing that's going well for you right now? What's a challenge that you're facing? And lastly, who do you need to attract in your life? What is the type of relationship that you're missing or that you would need to be able to help you accomplish whatever it is you're trying to do to get to the next level? So it's name, location, what do you invest in, your superpower, that's the thing that's easy for you but difficult for other people, something that's going well, a challenge that you're facing, and who do you need to attract in your life. So if we could go ahead, and Ken, and please go ahead and pull people into their breakout rooms, we'll go ahead and get the conversation started. Hey everyone. All right, now everybody's on camera. Now everybody's not feeling shy anymore. So I'm talking about. Got a lot of old faces here. That's awesome. Thank you guys hope you guys had a good time back in your breakout rooms. Hope you were able to learn something. So at this point, what we'd like to do is to be able to offer what did you hear from your breakout groups about superpowers you wanted to share, or people's requests for help that we wanted to elevate to the group at large here, in terms of speaking about, hey, what things did you learn? What are some things that we say, like, hey, if you're struggling with this kind of issue, this are the people you should think to connect with, and maybe, hey, this is what I heard about a challenge that somebody's going through, so we can all have aware of it as a community. And then individually, hey, I'm looking for somebody that has that superpower and I want to connect with them, that's a great opportunity to just direct message them here in the chat. If it's something else, like vice versa, right? If you hear somebody that has a challenge, you want to reach out to them and offer some support onto that, then it's a great place to do that also, just offering that privately in the chat. So for this part, what we're trying to do is take what we learned there in the small groups and bring that to the forefront for the group here at large. So who would like to share first about something that they heard, what they learned about inside of their small groups, and want to elevate that here into the group at large? All right, if we don't have anybody that volunteers by raising their hand in the chat, we got Robert over here. Great. Robert, go ahead and unmute yourself and lower your hand, brother.
Okay, so the one common theme that we had in our group was that that we need people ancillary to our business to help support us. So that includes property managers, construction type people, those sorts of contacts in the area where we're operating in order for us to be successful. So I thought it was a really good good points raised in that regard.
Cool. So it's kind of like so something that says, like, well, if there was some way that we could find out who were the good people for property management, construct, whoever all the support people around the assets from wherever you're working, that would be really valuable and helpful.
Yeah, and I think it was most needed when you're working out of state, right? Distance from your current location. That's when it's most tricky. So
it might be also too is like, how do you profile it, right? Like, how do you actually know who is any good if you reach out to them? That might be another skill set.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because, like, hey, maybe the people that we already know are good or filled up, right? But like, hey, how do we actually vet? And maybe there's a better way of vetting as well too that we can look at. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Robert, for sharing that. Charlie, go ahead and lower your hand and share with us what came up for you in the group.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, I had a great conversation with a gentleman, and I guess his wife is in a different location, and we were trying to get some. We're trying to get everybody in one discussion, but basically, they commute between two different locations, Upper East Coast and Lower East Coast, and I'm over in Hawaii, but I certainly understand that trek because I did that for many years. But one of the things that was interesting about them was that they got some really good skill sets, but at the same time, as they mentioned, they're kind of newbies getting involved in the business, and they're getting involved in more single family. They're trying to acquire more properties, experiencing the challenges that they are. So the superpower, I guess, in many ways, is the fact that they are involved, pretty much in the real estate business as a whole, and want to be able to build up on that. But so that's going well for them. But on their challenges, being able to acquire multiple additional properties that they would like to get before the close of the year, and so we're kind of all experiencing a lot of that as a whole. But when they talked about the mentoring, I really appreciated this a lot because he basically said that he wanted to have a mentor, which was his dad. and his dad was his idol. You know, he was the one that was leading him and showed him a lot of what's going on in his life, and respected him a tremendous amount. So I certainly can understand that, and there's a testament to that statement as well. Yeah. So they were excited about wanting to move forward, but their biggest challenge is getting properties in the present environment, what that's looking like.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Charlie. So it's also kind of like, sounds like there needs to be some support on a challenge they're facing is around like actually just finding the right deals, right? Like, well, probably all of us right now, right? With like saying, well, where are the deals actually as we're coming out here in real estate? So I'm wondering if there's any collective wisdom here in the group about any of these two challenges that people, looks like we've been able to flag so far around. The first issue is like, hey, how do we find out a good resource here for property managers and contractors, those support people where we might own properties? And looks like Charlie was flagging for us to saying, hey, is there a good place for us to be able to find deals right now? What are we doing for our deal flow, as it were, right? As we come through there. So does anybody have any knowledge about how we could address as a group either one of those two challenges?
Scott, let me just add to the latter part first. I actually extended an invitation to two of our members here to attend an event that would highlight few of the specific projects, and this is across the country, and not just in real estate, but businesses in particular. So I belong to that community, and we have a lot of projects. We're actually project focused. So there's a lot of project opportunities. So that's one. That's revolves around the opportunity zone specifically, right? So these are projects inside the opportunity zones, and they're going to be making a pitch. And that's just a few of the businesses that actually submitted their information to a platform, an AI platform that I had the opportunity to evaluate, and they scored a certain way. So these 4 companies that will be highlighted during this presentation, there's a lot more, is part of that. So I do have access to those type of deal flow specifically. The breakout that I have today, which is tremendous, and this is really kudos to what you're doing here. I just connected with somebody right across the lake here. Turns out that he is also here in the state of Washington, and he's going to be engaging into real estate. And then he had mentioned something about, connecting with some folks that can increase his ability to have more deal flow. Since I have some specific knowledge in that area, I basically hoping to connect with him directly, and then hopefully I can add to what he's seeking, because you do give us that feeling of, collaborating, because we belong to this community. So I hope that's not too general enough, but in terms of deal flow, I'm right at the thick of it in terms of what I do on a regular basis with my other community.
Excellent. So it sounds like, Alex, for in terms of like deal flow, maybe there's an opportunity that we can talk about for anybody that's interested about like, hey, how are we sourcing deals? How are we introducing it to the community for people able to help people with deal flow? Simultaneously, like as a community, maybe of what we have here across the country with so many real estate investors, we would potentially be able to start creating lists of contractors and service providers that we have liked as a community. And we might be able to create our own organic list of, who are people using and how do they like them? How are they finding new ones there? So awesome. Yeah. So let's talk more about that, Alex, at some point here. And if anybody else has some ideas on that you want to talk with me offline about, happy to talk with you about like what could be supportive for us there too. One of the other ideas that come up here with the staff as well was saying, hey, well, listen, we all have assets, and people inside of our own community are trying to buy and sell and trade assets, all the time, right? So what if we created something, maybe like at the very beginning, it would be kind of like low tech, but something where we're able to say like, hey, everybody who's looking to buy assets, give it your asset profile of what it is you're trying to buy. Everybody's trying to sell an asset right now. Let's give us like, what is the rundown of that asset? So that way inside of our own community, we might be able to create a space for us to be able to share like a buy and sell of different opportunities, but as well as assets that we all might have. I come into it. Brendan, go ahead. I saw your hand was raised, brother. Go ahead and share with us.
Yeah. So, I'm looking to expand my business into other states, mostly for some diversification. And the approach that we are taking is one, involvement in some communities where you have people who have some exposure and experience working with some individuals in one of these other places. But then we are starting, I'd say we're starting small. So we're starting with like one property acquisition in these different markets, and then trying to get some experience with it before we do a more significant 1031 exchanging and getting some more extensive property in these regions. So that's what I'm trying. I think that makes a bit of sense, but you'll have to ask me in a year or so about the long-term effectiveness of that approach.
Very cool. Well, I love it, Brendan, how you're trying something new in here and getting after it. For me, that really hits as an entrepreneurial skill. It's like a startup in its own, right? Like trying to figure out like, hey, will this materialize inside of a year? Can I prove out a model that comes with it? So definitely keep us posted on that. And I'd love to talk with you more about that, of how that could work and how we could help other people thinking in that way. I also want to just flag it for everybody that's there in the chat that we're actually going to be starting to do some work here with on Royal Investing, bringing in other people that I've worked with personally on how to grow businesses. So that's everything from like learning, dialing in, like how does your marketing need to work, your sales, how do you create basic funnels for converting, but as well as just thinking of your business in terms of funnels and the basics of it. We're going to be having a session that's on that. So if that's a new thing for you, they're like, hey, I know I need to learn some more skills. I need to learn, like, how do I hire a virtual assistant? Right? How do I make sure that the people that I hire are going to be productive for me? How can I leverage in through other people so I can focus on the critical hard problems that nobody else can solve for me, like Brennan's talking about, which is essentially like a new business setup, right? Nobody else can build that for you. You have to be instrumentally involved with it. So if that's something that you feel like you're needing, let's say, hey, I'd really want to upskill on some of my business skills. I'd go ahead and click on that link that Liz had posted for us. Or that Ken had posted for us for joining in on next Wednesday's show there for Royal Investing. You'll also see as we transition here to our next part of the show here for the Royal Life Planner. Ken also post that as well too. That's the PDF version, so you can go ahead and download and you can continue to use that. If you want a physical copy, you just have to email into Gina at royallegalsolutions.com, and then she'll go ahead and send you a free copy. We're only sending copies, free copies that are out here for the month of January. So you have this week, and then you have next Monday for anybody that you know that might want a free copy and wants to join in with a group. It's just part of our special thank you to that. Great, guys. So transitioning into our focus here today. Well, everybody will remember from last week that we ended up talking about the fishes, right? That's your financial, intellectual, social, your health, your emotional, and your spiritual. We talked about how you can rate each one of those areas of your life on a scale of 1 to 10 without you can't use the number 7. And that a 1 to a 6 means like, hey, that's an area in my life I'm not feeling good about that I need to do something about. So it brings you that awareness. It also says 8 or above, probably doing fine, right? And that overall, what we're looking for is to say, great, the more that I can get more areas of my life into that 8 or above means, one, my life is better. I'm happier with my life, but it also means a second thing, which is I now am a stronger person, meaning that I'm going to show up in the world as a bigger and stronger, more fulfilled person. And being a stronger and more fulfilled person makes me more powerful. And more powerful people are able to get more deals done. I think we've all intuitively felt that when we've met people, right? What is that magnetic attraction, that instantaneous, like, whoa, that person has something going on, right? My belief into it is that the more fulfilled you are and clear about what it is you want in your life, that's what's been one of my recipes for success. One of the things that's opened up doors for me on the financial front has actually been improving on the other areas of my life and making sure that I'm a more fulfilled, more powerful person. We also talked lastly in that is saying like, well, if it's, a 3, right? Or if it's a 6, or even if it's an 8, you might want to take that one extra last step to define what would a 10 be? What would a 10 in my life be here? And I think last time when we came into this, it said, wow, that was actually a surprisingly difficult exercise. Surprisingly difficult for me to have the awareness of how would I rate these other areas of my life? Is it a 1 to a 6? Is there an 8 or above? And then what actually would a 10 be there? What would me being fully fulfilled in that area of my life be for who I am, right? What does that need to look like for me to be able to do that? So today we're going to dive into a little bit deeper into the ways that you can find out why is that area of your life a 3, right? What would a 10 actually look like, and why is that? And the way we're going to do that is we're going to be looking at life in 3 different major segments here. We're going to be looking at life for 3 different things, right? I call these things, they're either your enliveners, right? That's how you feel more alive about that area of your life. That's those things that's that 10. That 10 experience it's super energetic, it's alive, it's really engaged with what you have going on. Then we have the experiences in our life that are nourishers. That's where we take and like that opportunity to rebuild the energy, right? That we use to be able to go create the 10s, right? So your nourishers there are around like what helps you relax, what helps you unwind. When do you feel nourished on like a body and soul kind of level, that deep level of just personal nourishment. And then lastly, what we call them as our 3rd category there is your zappers. Those are the things that like make you feel your lowest energy level. It's like where you feel bored, tired, stressed, frustrated. What are those things going to be? So let's go ahead and start, everybody, with looking at your enliveners. So I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to just go ahead and post these into the chat right now. And these are the critical questions. So go ahead, if you have like your pen and your piece of paper, guys, we're just going to go ahead and just take some focus time here. About 5 minutes on each section just for right now to get some quick engagement with it. And here's your critical questions. What were you doing when you felt the most alive and excited? Like just thinking back maybe in the last like week, what were you doing when you felt the most alive and excited? And then what were you doing when you were the most engaged? What was something that you did where you forgot about time? What's something that made you laugh? And when did you feel the most peaceful? So the idea here, dear guys, is saying like the things that are the 10s in our life, the things that tell us what the direction of a 10, an 8, 9, and 10 would look like for us are things that are probably in line with these areas. They're probably things that make you feel alive and excited. They're probably things that make you feel engaged, that you're so engaged with that you would forget about time, that you'd be so relaxed while you're doing it, that you'd have the ability to laugh around it. And then what were the things that like also help you feel at peace instead of like stressed and having to move through things? Like when do you feel like peace and calm? What are those when you reflect on these questions, what are the things that come up for you as experiences that are in line with that? So let's just take a couple of minutes here, guys, to go ahead and brainstorm those, write those out, and then we'll have some opportunity to do some quick sharing with the group about like what came up for you when you were considering that question. All right, guys, who has some reflections for us of what came up for them here? Who would like to share what came up for them as I looked at those? Alex, I saw you on mute, brother. Did you want to share?
Sorry, Scott, I was trying to figure out all that, looking through the chat, sending messages and the rest of it. I've been traveling lately a lot, even with COVID, with my family this time. Before that, most of my trips were basically either business trip or just me and my wife. This time around, I literally have all my kids. I have 5 of them, and they're adults now. And in looking at all of this, although I am so committed with my business, what I do, and I don't even consider that work, the time spent with my family and my children, all of those emotions that you have described, I was able to fulfill all of that when I had the special moments, especially when all my 5 children were together. My biggest joy and my biggest laugh, literally, when once I saw them engaged, and then my wife was just watching. And then this time around, I wasn't not only engaged in what was happening, I was reflecting how special that moment was.
That's beautiful, Alex. I'm just kind of curious. So I would look back at like our fishes, and I'd probably categorize that as like a social. So it seemed to you that it's like, man, it's the time with my family, that it's my social thing that really is where it moves me. That's the part where my, when I'm charting out my aliveness here, like that's the part that really hits me. I'm wondering, when you did your rankings on like 1 to 10, I'm just kind of curious, what did you rank that at?
Social, I had it at 6.
Okay. And then when you're looking at it as a 6, and with this awareness, has that changed for you in the clarity of like what
it didn't even cross my mind, Scott, right? I thought social interaction, I wasn't even thinking of my family. I thought it was the social activity I'm engaged in, which I do have some of those, right? Because I'm active in the for-profit and non-profit world as well. I was looking at social that way. Now that you put it in perspective for me, that my family really, right, was that. Because to me, at the end of the day, that's really what makes, I don't even have the words to describe.
Well, it's the thing that it's like the bedrock, right? For you, right? That's a core need, right? You have a core social need. And I was just wondering, is it kind of interesting? It says, wow, when I thought social, I thought that meant other people. But when I'm thinking like, what are the things that really make me feel engaged? Let me forget about time or laugh. Where do I feel at peace? That's actually this other thing called my family that didn't even make it into the equation.
That's right.
As I was thinking through it. And that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So Julie, the fishes are on page 37 of the journal. So if you scroll up, you'll be able to grab the journal and download that. But it's the financial, intellectual, social, health, emotional, and spiritual. And the way that we define spiritual here is around knowledge of self. That's self-knowledge, self-development. Yeah, and Liz is going to help you out here typing it out. Isn't Liz just a gem? Well, I love Liz. Great. Guys, so who else? Thank you so much, Alex, for your share there. That's really helpful and insightful, I think, for all of us to see, what our awarenesses are about some of these things. Is anybody else, after hearing Alex, want to share before I call on somebody to have a share about it? All right, Julie raised her hand. I saw it in the video. That's one of the privileges of being on video. Thank you, Julie. Go ahead and share with us.
Sure. I have 2 things. The excitement. I'm excited whenever I get a lead or a prospect that I know I'm going to have a good business. And I'm really excited for every opportunity. I feel thrilled. However, the most peaceful moment is actually when I'm cooking. I always like to go on YouTube video and look for new recipes I could use. And then I cook for my family. And then when everybody likes it and when they enjoy it, I feel the most peaceful moment and happiness. And it reminds me that everything I'm doing every day that I hustle is actually for my family. So that ties to the emotional and spiritual and maybe social as well. Social doesn't have to be with your friends or people outside. It could be with your family. The relationship with your family is really important because that's or the emotional support you're getting so you can work hard and become successful. So that's my highlights for the fishes.
I want to underline something that you said, Julie, just to make sure that everybody heard it, right? Because what I heard you say was, hey, listen, I could take all of these questions and I could ask myself about them individually, just regarding my financial. What was I doing when I felt the most excited? When was I the most engaged? When did I forget about time? When was I able to laugh and progress of my financial? When did I feel the most peaceful? And that's where you kind of started, right? But you also said something else that was really interesting to me about the cooking that I want to underline for everybody, because for you, the activity of cooking actually had leveraged benefits, because it hit on both like a social, maybe it was cooking healthy food, so it's the way I take care of my health. It's the way I connect with my family, so it's social. It's providing me emotional support because I get to see the happiness and being able to give to other people. And man, now that I have an almost like a spiritual experience, because it's fulfilling to my core about who I am and giving out. So remember, we think through real estate, we think dollars, we think leverage, right? What if cooking for you is a leveraged activity that says, when I cook, I'm actually fulfilling multiple buckets with the same amount of time that I'm doing. So I just offer you to that as for a consideration of that. Maybe there's other activities as you think through each of the categories that actually fulfill multiple buckets all at the same time. So you can leverage your time to be the most fulfilled as possible, just like we leverage our real estate to make the most money that we can. Awesome, guys. So I want to go ahead and kick to the next one. Thank you so much, Julie, for that share. That really beautiful. Thank you for giving that to us for our own consideration. All right, guys. So next, what we're going to be looking at here is going to be our nourishers. So the nourishers are the things that let you rebuild your energy, right? Because we're type A people here, right? We're investors. We're working hard. We're trying to make things happen. Right? We're entrepreneurs and investors. Every investor is an entrepreneur at heart. So the thing is what do we do to recharge the batteries? Because we're spending that energy as much as we can every single day because we're hard chargers. So this is the next step. When you think through, what were you doing that made you deeply relax? What did you do that's just for you and helped you unwind? And then when did you feel nourished on a body and soul level? So these are things maybe to reflect on, and like maybe in the last week, what were you doing that helped you deeply relax? What is something that you did just for you to help you unwind? And then when did you feel nourished on that body and soul level? So you can think about this through like, hey, what happened with like the last week and when can I notice those things happening? You might think of this in each one of the category of your fishes, right? As like, when is this true for me? Or what are these things around like my financial life, my intellectual life, my social life, my overall body health life, my emotional life, my spiritual life? You could also think through it in that context as well too, if that's helpful for you into it. So let's just take a few minutes, everyone, and go through and looking back through your last week or looking through each of the categories, see what comes up for you as you just take a few minutes to reflect. All right, everyone. Cool. So what came up for us? There? All right. Who has something they want to share about like when they're reflecting on like what's nourishing? What kinds of things are we doing, guys, that allow us to be able to relax and get nourished? That way we can hard charge into it. Robert, do you have anything figured out for yourself, bud, of like what things you do to help you recover?
Yeah. So I'm not one who vacations very often and has nothing scheduled. Last year was one of the first times that I actually took my my daughter to a beach. Well, my cousin has daughters their age. They played on the beach, and we just sat on the beach with nothing. Took no calls, no work, and just listened to the waves crash repeatedly. And I have to say, it was something like I've never experienced before. It was the most relaxing experience of my life. Just having nothing to do but to hear, nature. It was very cool. That's kind of what it is for me.
That's neat, man. So when you're on the beach, let's just break this down a little bit here. When you're on the beach, What are you focused on? Where's your attention?
It was on my family, my daughter, or just on the beauty of nature.
Yeah.
That was it.
And that's all stuff that's right there with you.
Yep.
Yeah. So it might be, it's like it's a focus on the present. What's true for me in the present moment of it, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else that comes up, Robert, for you? Like if for you to be able to feel the relaxation and to unwind and feeling like that re-nourishment, do you need to go to a beach? Or is there anything else that you're able to do like in your day-to-day living that helps you?
Well, I feel after I work out and I'm done, I feel really, really good. During the workout, maybe not so much, right? But once you're done and you kind of realize that, hey, I got a healthy body and I'm feeling fit and whole, that for me is very nourishing. And then the other thing I thought of is I got just a massage the other day because it's one of the ways to de-stress. And that warm table, being able to unplug for that hour and just kind of breathe and meditate was awesome. So those are the things that are at the top of my list.
Awesome, man. So yeah, I heard a couple of things in there. It's like it'd be meditation, or it can also be like going to get a massage or working out. There's a couple of different things you can pull from when you're like, hey, I need to recharge. I need more nourishment before I go back in to like try going back into build mode. Awesome. Great, guys. Let's go ahead, and since we're running a little bit short of time, let's go ahead and jump into the next section. But I wanted to model it for you about, hey, where does like the nourishment lay in to play into some of the analysis here. And then lastly, guys, these are going to look for is going to be our zappers. And before we get into the zappers, we might want to look at the things that are nourishing here as things that say like, wow, I'm at a 4 at this area of my life. And I just did the exercise that said, I can know what a 10 is by saying like, what's energetic, what makes me feel alive. That's the 10 in that area of my life. But maybe to get to the 10, I need to have enough energy to be able to put into my life. And that's where Robert's ideas that he shared with us is, that's where my nourishment is. I do these things that gives me the energy that lets me be able to go for the 10, to do the work to get me to the 10. So the energy is converted inside of ourselves into action to go after what it is we're looking for. And the converse of that could also be the next piece that we're going with here is, what are the things that steal our energy? They don't drive us towards the 10 that we're looking for, and they rob us of our ability to be able to move forward with that. And that's what we call the zappers. And these are the questions that let you be able to uncover what are your zappers. Your zappers are the things as, when do you feel like you're in the lowest energy? What's your lowest energetic state for an activity you're doing? It's when do you feel bored, tired, stressed, frustrated? When do you resent like what it is that you feel like you quote unquote have to do, right? If that's you and you're really in that, I feel like I have to go do this thing, I really encourage you to come to the next Royal Investors call, as we're going to talk about entrepreneurial skills. Entrepreneurship is about how to get other people to do things that you don't like to do things that are your zappers, right? So that way you can preserve and protect your energy to keep driving more towards the 10s that are in your life. So consider these questions here, guys, for just a couple of minutes, and we'll have a quick share, and then we'll need to wrap up for the day. But it's look into the chat, for those are the critical questions that we're looking at. Identify a few of those for yourself. Help bring yourself the awareness. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and just have a quick round of shares here of like, what are some of those zappers? Those things that put us to our lower energy state, being like bored or tired or frustrated, or those things that you resent that you have to do. What came up for us in as part of the zappers? Hey, Ray, I see you over there, buddy. Ray, would you be willing and wanting to share with us a little bit about what some of your zappers are? What are those things that tank your energy?
Sure. I say one of the biggest zappers, if I don't get a good sleep the night before, definitely. Next day I get frustrated, irritable, low energy level. I guess another one's probably having kids going through temper tantrum, and I get frustrated too.
Yeah.
And that really drain my energy off.
Now, when you say kids having temper tantrums, does that also include like adult children in your business life also having temper tantrums? Because I feel like that drains my energy too. I'm like, hey man, you're 45 years old. What are you doing having a temper tantrum? That's not any different than the 6-year-old I know, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That happens at work all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm wondering, Ray, are there any things that come up for you of things that you do in your work that you're like, wow, when I do that kind of work, it takes me a ton of energy to do that work. And like when I do it, I'm like, I just have to grind through it, you know, because it's not stuff that I really like.
Yeah, like low intellectual stuff, and, like finding stuff just to get certain things to be done. I'm a physician. That's why I wear this COVID-proof goggle, by the way.
Nice.
So sometimes, just try to find certain things, tools, and just to, get things done, like a fix, suture, but I can't find a suture kit. I can't find the tech who can help me to find the suture kit, and or even the paperwork just to get the people to refer to another service and things like that. Can't find the paper and things like that, like a very low intellectual level stuff. I can't get to it, and just stuck in the earthly process. That's most frustrating.
Yeah. So it's like the data entry tasks, or like having to find things, because like we don't know what are the right thing, where do we actually get that thing that I need. I want to be thinking about, because you would probably feel really strong if you're like, hey, if I'm having to do strategic thinking, like that feels good. But like the mundane routine, like low, and like, man, don't give me that stuff. That drains me coming into it.
Yes.
So I would proposition for you, and you probably would feel this too, is like and that's probably one area of life. Maybe there's something you can do about that. Maybe there's not. But what I would offer to you is saying there's probably other areas of your life, when you analyze them, around your financial, intellectual, social health, your emotional, and your spiritual well-being, that there's all kinds of little things like that in those different areas that are like, that really is not in my power zone. And that maybe there would be ways to look at, how can I eliminate or reduce some of those zappers down, so that way I can have more of the energy that even when I didn't sleep well the night before, I'm still able to make progress of where I want to be going. If I can not have too many of these zappers to already take the diminished energy that I have because I didn't sleep well, and now I'm able to do zero. Because if I didn't sleep well, maybe my energy is already low, and then I have the zappers, and then, man, I'm not doing anything. I'm not making any progress of what I really want. So maybe there's some things in here with the way they work together about how do we take care of ourselves on the health front? How do we eliminate the things that detract from our energy down to the bottom? And how does that set us up for the success that we're looking for and driving towards the 10? And I offer that to everybody as that whole process kicks out from the questions that we put here into the chat. I think we're going to try to make a worksheet on those. But if you want to copy down those questions to the chat, that's all they are. The whole process here, guys, is looking at your fishes. Let's rate your fishes. Then let's ask ourselves these questions as they relate to the categories of our lives that will help clarify for us, what is it that I want out of there? Because I want to feel energized about those areas of my life. How can I make sure that I'm taking care of myself and nourishing myself to be able to give myself the energy to be able to get there? And then lastly, how do I keep all of these zappers, these detractors, these thieves of my energy out of my world? What can I do about those things and to it? And then we'll use the collective wisdom of the group of what are the things that we've done in the past that have helped us with those similar challenges. So when we come back in to next week and you look at that number 6 question on what are we going to be doing in our group share, You might, if you have thought about this between now and next week, say, hey, it is now very clear to me of a challenge that I'm having. Ray might come back and say, I'm actually having a challenge that I can't figure out how to get out of this mundane crap that's taken all my energy into it. And we say, great, that's awesome, Ray. Tell us more about that and see if somebody else in the group has found a way about being able to solve that problem, or a way of thinking through that problem in a way that might be supportive and beneficial for you. So I encourage everybody between now and next week, go to your planners, run through this exercise again. Run through it every day if you can, because it will give you the increased clarity that you need, so that way when you come back next week, that you'll be able to then connect with the people here in the group that will be able to support you in solving the problems that so far you have been unable to solve on your own. All right, guys. So that's all here for today. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, your support of each other. And coming into the group here today. It's, of course, is an honor for me and a pleasure to be able to be a master of ceremonies for you, to be able to create this space for you all to connect with each other and help guide us through the conversation. I'm looking forward into next week to hear about what things that you have come up for you between last week and this week, and utilizing some of the tools that we've covered off on here in the next 2 weeks. And I think we'll be able to see that set up with what do the questions look like in terms of our group, or in terms of our small group, our breakouts. What are the clarity that we have around what our challenges are? Where are we doing really well? And then who are we going to be needing in our lives to be able to help us get to that next phase for what it will be. So I highly encourage you to please go back through the fishes exercise, go back through the questions that are here inside of the planner. If you need those questions, I believe that's going to be in some of the communication from the emails that are going to be being sent out, as well as being able to email Gina if you want a physical copy of the planner before we will start charging for them. So it's an opportunity for you to get a free copy of that physical planner and start using that as your everyday with you book. Right? It's always with you, always on top of mind of thinking through these areas as they come up for you. Look forward to you guys seeing you next week. Bless you. Thank you. Hope you have a prosperous week.